We are doing the Lord's work. Unfortunately, we don't know which Lord that is. Hi, this is Two Girls, One Plot.
So today we are on Chapter 6 of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone, The Journey from Platform 9 3/4.
Yay!
Our last pre-Hogwarts chapter. Very exciting.
It is very exciting because I love trains. As a Canadian, I don't believe you've had a lot of train experience in your life.
Mostly when I go to Europe, yes, I've enjoyed trains there, but no, trains in Western Canada are not really a thing that one does.
Yeah, but the trains in Europe and even in the Europe where I'm from, the trains are a very big thing. And
Do you know that in Russia, the train tracks are a different size than the rest of Europe?
Oh, yes, I do know. I do know that.
Yeah, listeners, my theory, and I think this was confirmed, is that it helped them avoid being invaded.
Yes.
Yeah, and so they've just kept it because then it's hard to take a train into Russia.
Yeah, and after crossing the border, whatever maintenance workers of the train tracks would have to manually change the width of the wheels, the train wheels, to match the European track width. Yeah, that's a thing, but a lot of memories I have from my childhood, they are tied to railway stations, just journeys on a train that are several days long, like the one that I took several times from my hometown of St. Petersburg to Belarus, which was at the time, I believe, 3 days long. But also I'm from a country where you can be on train for 2 weeks and still be in the same country.
I remember my earliest train experience was actually in Egypt. I was 6 and I got to take an overnight train. And when they pulled down the beds from the wall, if you ever been in a train where they do that, I feel like you have to have. I've been in Russia and they have those trains.
What? Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, wow. Oh my God, you can sleep on a train. Yeah, I was like that. 6-year-old me was like, this is amazing.
Yeah, and actually, I think I was 8 or 9 year old when I had that long journey to Belarus and back. Actually, the journey back was very complicated because there were no direct tickets back to St. Petersburg. So we had to take several short distance trains before we could get on a long distance train.
So they have so many trains there that they have both short distance and long distance trains.
We have so many distances that we have both short distance and long distance trains.
So we're going to begin our segment. What have we been reading lately? So Xenia, what have you been reading lately?
Oh, lately I have been actually listening to, because I don't have time to read it with my eyes, a memoir that is called When I Was Puerto Rican by Esmeralda Santiago. I'm pretty sure that I did butcher that name. And it is about a prepubescent girl growing up in Puerto Rico in the 50s, which we determined only yesterday because the narration talks about Ike Eisenhower as a president of the United States. Because before that, I was like, I don't know what time frame it is about.
And I have been avoiding the Death Note manga because it's so aggressively, I'm 17 and I'm the smartest boy in the world. So yeah, it's also pretty gay. I've just been like, every time I read it, I'm reminded about being like really arrogant at 17 and I gotta pause. So I started listening on audio to Catch 22. Do you know the book?
No.
Okay, so it's a famous American novel. I'm only 4 chapters in, but it's very funny. It's set in World War II in Italy, and it's at a camp where the soldiers are all pilots who fly bombers. And it's about the main characters. This is so stupid. I don't want to be in the war. I'm going to die here. But the only way to get out of being called up is to get an insanity discharge. But if you know enough to tell someone with authority that you're insane, then you're sane enough to know that, therefore you're not insane.
Oh, so it's very Remarque-esque.
Yeah, so that's the Catch 22.
Okay.
And I'm only 4 chapters in, and it is hilarious.
So less Remarque-esque than I thought.
This is an American novel. Okay, there's a bit of humor in it.
Okay.
Yeah, it's really good. So far, I'm really liking it. 4 chapters in. I'm listening to it on audio, and the narrator is really good. So we'll see where it ends up. But so far, having a nice time.
Okay.
So would you like me to do a synopsis of this chapter? That's not the word.
Synopsis.
Synopsis, yes.
Please.
So Harry is back at the Dursleys, and he spends 1 more month there. And it's great because the Dursleys avoid him completely. They neither bully nor talk to him.
Just completely ignoring.
So he gets to read his books that he just got at Diagon Alley and hang out with Hedwig, his new owl. But he has to go to school, so he asked Mr. Dursley to take him to London, a town he has only been to once before, still shocked by that. And Mr. Dursley agrees for not good reasons and also makes fun of the fact that the platform is 9 3/4.
Oh,
Not
yeah.
9, not 10, 9 3/4.
Somewhere in between and apparently a little bit to the right.
So Harry's dropped off at King's Cross Station and the Dursleys find it very hilarious and leave. Harry's trying to figure out how to get to the platform, asks a very unhelpful muggle man about the platform, and then he overhears someone say the word, and we get to meet the Weasleys. Mrs. Weasley? Okay. I feel like that was not the sound effect for that, but okay. No, it's not that either. No.
Oh my God. I'm not sure. Okay, that one.
So we get to meet the Weasley, and Mrs. Weasley very kindly tells Harry how to get onto platform 9 3/4, which involves running at a wall. Harry does this, and lo and behold, he's in a magical platform, and it is there, the Hogwarts Express. Time to go to Hogwarts. So he's trying to get on the train, but he is very small and his trunk is very big. And two twins help him put his trunk onto the train. And upon helping Harry with his trunk, they notice a scar and ask, is he Harry Potter? Harry replies in the affirmative and then goes to an empty cabin in the train. He overhears the same redheaded family, the one who helped him into the platform and also whose twins helped him his trunk onto the train, talk about him. They're amazed and want to see him, goggle at him, and their mother forbids them from doing anything unkind. She's great. We'll be seeing her a lot. Eventually, a redheaded boy, one that was with this family, comes into the compartment and asks if he can join Harry. And eventually they get to talking. Harry and the boy both find each other equally interesting, and we learn the boy's name is Ron Weasley. Have we met one of the key characters in the entire series? We have. Then they're on the train and they get some snacks. Harry is very excited to buy snacks for the first time in his life because he has money, and Ron is excited to teach him about all the different wizard snacks. Then a boy comes, he's lost his toad, and Ron and Harry inform him that they have not seen the toad.
Alas.
The boy leaves, but comes back a moment later with a girl who speaks very quickly and informs them that the boy has lost his toad, they're looking for him. Seeing that Ron has his wand out, asks us if he's about to do magic.
And Ron performs a wonderful specimen of magic.
Yes. The girl is disappointed, says it's not very good, and then tells Harry and Ron about the two remaining Hogwarts houses, Gryffindor and Ravenclaw, and how she wants to be in Gryffindor, and she thinks it's the best. And the people who make Harry Potter merch will concur because that will be the majority of the merch that they make.
Yes.
She leaves, and wait, was she also one of the main characters of Harry Potter? Perhaps we've met Hermione Granger. After she leaves, they talk for a bit more, and then another person comes into the compartment. My God, do these people just come in and out of the compartments?
Who is that?
It's a tall, pale, blonde-haired boy. The same one from Madame Malkin's robe shop. He introduces himself as Draco Malfoy, and with him are two other 11-year-old boys who will act like his bodyguards, entourage. I'm not really sure what they're supposed to be, but they're very different in size from him. So I get the vibe it's a bodyguard entourage sort of situation. And he introduces himself and tells Harry that in the wizarding world, some people are better than others. And Ron isn't a good one. So he, Draco, can tell Harry who's good and who's bad. Harry declines this offer from Draco, and we get what I think is one of the best things, which is our first Potter of the entire series from Draco. He and his cronies are about to steal some of the candy that Harry has bought from the train.
From the trolley witch.
Oh, yeah, from the trolley witch. But before they can What happened? It's Scabbers, the rat that belongs to Ron Weasley. It has jumped and bit one of the boys.
A very familiar feeling. Very familiar feeling now.
Yes. And then the boys all leave the compartment. Scabbers, the rat, falls quickly back asleep. And it's time for Harry and Ron to disembark the train. First, then Hermione comes again to talk to them. No one again. Everyone just seems to be going in and out of compartments. Is this something that people, that kids on trains do? I don't know. Listeners, let me know.
I feel like it's like The Office, the show where it's just one set, and everything's happening in the same set. People just come and go.
It very much feels like a play. So then Hermione comes, tells them they're almost going to be at Hogwarts. It's time for them to change into their robes. They get changed. They get off the train, and Harry sees a familiar figure yelling, "First years! It's Hagrid." He's going to take them to Hogwarts.
Hey.
He takes them across the lake in these little boats, four boys and girls to a boat. Let me rephrase that. 4 children to a boat. We're gender inclusive here. And then Harry sees Hogwarts for the first time. It's a beautiful castle, all lit up. Amazing. And it's time to go to Hogwarts. And that's the chapter.
Yay. So I am just astonished with how Dursleys were able to just ignore Harry for the whole month completely. But also, Dudley is actually scared of him. And I am so perplexed by the fact that, so it's been a month, right? And Harry asks the Dursleys to give him a lift on August 31st, basically. Is there an August 31st? Is this 31 days in August, or am I just talking bullshit?
31 days,
okay.
Yeah.
August 31st. And Vernon says that they're going to London anyways to surgically remove Dudley's pig. And I have 2 problems with that. First is that they have not figured it out within a month, like how to do that. And then Vernon says that they have to remove it before he goes to school. But apparently if school begins the same day in all schools all over Britain, then the school for Dudley starts tomorrow. And then they're going to remove the tail tomorrow as well. What is going on, Vernon? Figure it out. Get it together.
Yep. That is something. Maybe this is just this is the only time they could get the appointment for Dudley, because it is a private hospital.
Oh, it would be the private hospital. But also, I am absolutely, I don't know. I'm so confused why Petunia never heard about Platform 9 3/4, because her sister would have used it to go to school 7 years in a row.
Don't we see in Snape's memory Petunia at Platform 9 3/4?
I'm not going to lie. I don't remember that exactly but I feel like that happened.
Yeah, I feel very strongly that happened. So I think this is a retcon.
Yeah.
Yeah. Or maybe Petunia did know and she just wants him to suffer because her son now has a pigtail. But if that's the case, I feel like there would have been a little hint of Petunia being particularly mean. But we don't see that.
I'm also quite surprised that Vernon is trying to make conversation, actually, by asking Harry where the school is. And like, why are wizards traveling by train? What, are all flying carpets just gone?
I think he's having a mean conversation. Because he was like, I don't know, it doesn't seem very nice. It feels like he's just trying to mock a boy again.
Probably, yeah.
Yeah. He does say, here's one line. "Have a good term," said Uncle Vernon with an even nastier smile. Like all the smiles are nasty. So
it's just totally normal to yeet your nephew with a huge amount of belongings and an owl at the
King's Cross.
King's Cross, which is the largest railway station in the whole UK.
Are you asking or telling me this?
I believe so. I believe that it is.
Okay, this is possibly true.
This is possibly true. I'm not sure. I'm not gonna...
I think it's the most famous one.
It's the most famous one. That's true. So just leave your 11-year-old neighbor with belongings at the busiest railway station in London and be like, ciao, bye-bye.
So I want to bring something up. It's in the second paragraph of this chapter. Harry kept to his room with his new owl for company. He had decided to call her Hedwig, a name he found in A History of Magic. So it's interesting, and we'll see it later in the chapter, where some historical figures are mentioned, and because they're on the Chocolate Frog cards, they're wizards. And I'm curious as to whether or not Hedwig was someone that the Muggle world would have known, because maybe she's ye old before the Statue of Secrecy. And the only Hedwig I could find was like a duchess who seemed cool and became a Catholic saint, but I'm not sure that she had any magic things in her. Let me get her full name. Hedwig of Silesia, also Hedwig of Andex. Yeah, so she was later canonized by the Catholic Church. Now, I don't know. The extent of my research here was, let me Google this and go to the answer that's like from the result a few down from the AI model. So maybe it was her, maybe it wasn't, but Hedwig's a nice name either way. It could also be a witch from after the Statue of Secrecy.
Could have been. I'm going to tell you what, that this did not make it into translation. It didn't make it into Russian translation.
Oh, what did they say?
So they did a lousy translation. Apparently, the translators, you have to imagine how many translators and editors this is going through, and none of them said, no, this is BS. So they translated Hedwig into Buka, which is a ringlet curl, because they apparently went with the phonetic.
Hedwig?
Yes, phonetic for Hedwig.
Okay.
And when I realized that, when I was old enough to read and to watch the movies in English and read the books in English, I was like, what the actual hell? It was so bad that I had
emotion damage.
Exactly that. Hedwig did not make it into Russian translations. Yes, but she is a ringlet curl.
Interesting.
I know.
This chapter also includes one of my favorite Britishisms, where Aunt Petunia's not coming in to hoover the room anymore.
We have a Hoover.
Yes, for those our international listeners, because we have some fans in the Czech Republic.
Hello.
I want you to understand that Hoover is a brand of vacuum that is so popular in the United Kingdom that it has taken on to be the verb for vacuuming.
It's like with the Xerox.
Yes.
Scotch tape.
Velcro,
and Pampers.
Kleenex, I think.
Kleenex as well. Yes, so it's just a brand name that overtook the whole category of the products that they represent.
I just really like Hoover.
Yeah.
It's nice.
Yeah. But we have a Hoover steam cleaner, not a Hoover vacuum.
Hey, we're part Hoover at least.
Yeah, do you think that this will happen with Google? You Google it, right? Google already overtook the search engine. You just Google it.
I use Microsoft Bing,
but you still Google it.
Yeah, no, I search it. Yeah, but I use Microsoft Bing or DuckDuckGo.
DuckDuckGo is something that I have installed onto my work computer.
Yeah, I really like DuckDuckGo. It's great. I would highly recommend DuckDuckGo. The first time that I really thought, oh, Jean-Luc is probably cool, is when I was meeting you guys at the library and I saw on his phone he also uses DuckDuckGo. And I was like, cool. You're cool. Jean-Luc, if you're listening to this, I approve of your browser choice.
Yeah, DuckDuckGo, not sponsored. But I also follow them on Instagram. And recently, today, they were trying to reach out to a goose, it was a duck, who was wearing a World Cup jersey cheering for, I don't remember which team though.
Sports.
We're cheering for sports. We're not big on soccer. The only thing we know is that yesterday, Messi scored 3 goals
despite being 8
against Algeria, and all 3 goals were Messi's.
Yeah,
they were quite messy.
Padumcha.
Yep.
Yeah, no, it was. Yeah, so I don't know where we were with this.
We were at the Hoover.
Yeah. Anyway,
at the Hoover part of it.
So yeah, then we go to him asking Uncle Vernon to be at King's Cross Station, and I have a moment where I actually wonder whether or not Dudley is actually getting his tail removed. Because this is very convenient. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. They're going to London tomorrow anyways, or I wouldn't bother. Vernon, you would bother. A wizard giant came into the shack you were hiding in and forced Harry to know things. You have been so afraid of Harry that you have not talked to him in a month. That's so long. Not even to abuse him. Yeah, no, you would bother, Vernon, or else something bad could happen.
Yeah, what is it if not the consequences of your own decisions?
Yeah.
But so there is this scene next when Harry does not know what to do at the King's Cross station.
I have one last thing.
Oh, yeah, sure.
So taking Dudley to the hospital, got to get that ruddy tail removed before he goes to Smeltings. If Arthur Weasley or someone else in the ministry knew what had been done to Dudley, you could tell that they have no idea that Hagrid's doing magic because they would have come and removed the tail. Also, how did Vernon explain this to a doctor?
I am quite not sure. But yeah, can you imagine that Hagrid actually told Dumbledore about that? Dumbledore did nothing?
That would be hilarious.
That would be hilarious.
I can see Dumbledore doing that.
Yeah, I can kind of see it. Oh, you did what? You did what? Oh my God, hilarious. Can you tell me again?
Yep.
But yes, then there is this scene of Harry not knowing what to do and where to go at the King's Cross station, and the amount of anxiety that he must be experiencing here is just something that I physically feel every time when I read that, because I've been in situations like that, just not knowing where to go, what to do in a public space, and also seeking out is it a real policeman or just a guard? A passing guard. Yeah. Not a police, but a guard. So asking adults for help. And here we have another instance of adults in Harry's life being useless. And we wonder why Boy does not trust adults. Wow.
It is. I just find it wild. So this guard sees that there's this small kid with a huge trunk and an owl, not something people casually carry around. And he's just, it's messing with, wasting my time. And I have to wonder, because other kids come to platform 9 3/4 with owls. So has he become A, used to the owls, or B, has someone had to put a spell on him to just be like, you do not see the owls?
That's an interesting question, actually.
Because like you can't just casually bring an owl
But
around.
it's not just this guard. Like you can imagine, and there's like a change of guards every now and then.
No.
And it's not the same guard that works every September 1st at King's Cross Station.
Are we sure?
We can't be sure, but...
Exactly. Anyway, but yeah, this is why Harry doesn't like adults, and I understand, Harry. I also get, according to the large clock up on the arrivals board, he had 10 minutes left to get the train to Hogwarts, and he had no idea how to do it. He was stranded in the middle of the station with a trunk he could hardly lift, a pocket full of wizard money, and a large owl.
The amount of anxiety that I would have in his place is just, I don't know, I probably would have an anxiety attack.
Yeah. I would just be like, that's just so nerve-wracking. And then Mrs. Weasley is here to save the day. But before that, there's the line, Hagrid must have forgotten to tell him something you had to do, like tapping the third brick on the left against Diagon Alley. And like that line, so first, accurate, but also not good writing. Like you don't have to remind us how to get into Diagon Alley. And also...
Not like we're going to Diagon Alley that way anytime soon or any time in the books anymore.
Even if the characters do, it's not useful for the reader. Because the next time that if they were to go to Diagon Alley this way, and I can't remember if they do, I don't think they do.
No, they don't.
You could just have Harry go, Ron, how do you get in? Or Hagrid, how do you get in? And forget and be reminded there. The author just decides to repeat some information here. Anyway, J.K. Rowling's, this is her first novel ever, like her first published work ever. So for someone this is their first published work, I'm like, it's pretty decent. Especially writing is not just the technical ability to write, it's how the reader takes it. And the reader obviously took this book very well because it became immensely popular. But there are like certain moments where I'm just like, that's not the best choice. That's not the best decision. Okay.
But then a group of people passed just behind him and he caught a few words of what they were saying. Pet with muggles, of course, which I feel like it's a little bit too convenient for Molly Weasley to be talking about muggles at this moment. Of course, a muggle railway station is going to be packed with muggles.
Yeah, but helps the plot and not in a weird way. I don't know. You don't have boomer parents that are alive anymore, but I do. So.
Oh, so you concur with the mom.
Yeah, they do that.
I remember my day.
It's not that. We'll be like.
Complaining a lot.
I'm trying to think of a nice way to say this. My uncle lives in the area of Vancouver, which is known as the Italian area. And I can't say for certain how many actual Europeans live there and how much of it is people of European descent, because I've never bothered to ask any of them. But I remember when I was a kid, Me, my dad, and my brother were walking there, and there were some people acting a bit odd. And my dad just goes really loudly where everyone can hear, "This place is full of Europeans." So I'm not saying that it isn't convenient for the plot for this to happen, exceedingly convenient, but I will say this isn't out of normal behavior for a parent.
But what is out of normal is that Molly asks, "What's the platform number?" As if she didn't take the train herself
She's busy. She has
for 7 years in a row.
she has 8 children.
And as if she has seven.
7. She has 7 children.
As if she hasn't sent five of them already multiple times.
Again, this is something that I have experience with as my mom was head of the PTA and she still had to be like,
I can't believe that. No.
she was head of the parent teacher committee. Parent teacher association. And she still had to be reminded where we're in the school where she hosted meetings.
Oh, no.
Why are you knowing this?
I don't know, because to me, it's the head of PTA is almost like the head of HOA. It's the same vibe.
I'm sorry, you've met my mom.
Yes.
So why is this surprising to you?
Okay, fair.
Yeah, I'm saying if you've been around someone, my mom only had 2 kids and she acted like this. So I can see Mrs. Weasley with her 7 kids.
We are constantly reminded by Ron in this chapter that she just forgets because she gets busy with all of the kids. And I can imagine that a summer with 5 kids in the house, even if it's just two months with all 5 of them, is just going to drive you crazy. I can't imagine, Molly. I'm so sorry.
And here we meet another important character, though she won't really become important for a couple books. 9 3/4 piped a small girl, also red-headed, who was holding her hand. "Mom, can't I go?" "You're not old enough, Ginny. Now be quiet." That's your wife, Harry.
That's your life.
It's wild. I haven't reread the 6th book in a long time. Okay, so gentle listeners, when I want to reread Harry Potter casually, I have a couple books that are my faves. And by a couple, 2, book 3 and book 4. Do you know why? Because Sirius is alive. That's not how it's not gay.
This is the wrong sound, but I just wanted.
Oh my God! Emotional damage!
Yeah,
Yes,
that one.
Sirius as a character is a delight. We are running very much ahead, but Sirius as a character, he is a delight. He has a very short and not very sweet, but short and memorable arc.
It's also, I feel like, peak low stakes for most of those books. And I'll explain my opinion here. So in the 3rd book, the biggest actual danger to Harry is the Dementors. And what does he do? He immediately gets lessons on how to defend himself.
From somebody who knows how to do that.
Yeah.
From an actual competent teacher.
And also we have the exploration, I think the first exploration the author does of really emotional problems in a teen boy. And I think I don't know, I might correct this when we read through it, but I've always...
boy psychology.
Yeah, I've always felt that she did it pretty okay. We'll see. And it has a happy ending.
It has a bittersweet ending, I would say.
But he's not dead.
He's not dead, but Harry has a hope that's been immediately crushed.
But also reignited because he's now alive again.
No,
like,
I mean
the hope of living with him was crushed, but
Yes.
the hope of having someone who loves him in the world is reignited.
Oh, yeah. And I love how in the 4th book it is addressed right after when Harry has the nightmare. He needs to write to someone. He needs someone who's like a parent. Who is?
And also the 4th book has a lot of like, facing a dragon is difficult. I'm not going to pretend I could face a Hungarian horntail, but he has tasks and he has people helping him, not always for the best reasons, and he achieves them. And so until we get to the graveyard scene, for the most of it, it's very gentler than the other books. So this one, we get a terrifying example at the end of the book. Spoilers ahead, but I don't know what you're doing listening to a reread podcast of a book that came out in 1997 and expecting us not to give spoilers.
I'm going to give you a heads up because yesterday I was perusing the Reddits.
The comments.
The Reddits and some Reddit threads. People have just finished the series for the first time.
Yeah, but it's a reread podcast. It's in the title.
It's not.
Oh, okay. We'll put it in the title. Anyway, look, you had your warning, okay? If you're afraid of spoilers, stop listening. Read first. Anyway, First book, we have the horrifying moment where Professor Quirrell has Lord Voldemort on the back of his head. Second book, we have Lord Voldemort again, who has possessed a 11-year-old girl and a giant snake which is trying to kill Harry. Fifth book, we have Dolores Umbridge facing Dumbledore again, the death of Sirius, heartbreaking. Sixth book, we have Harry preparing for war.
Dumbledore dying.
And the seventh book is the accumulation of all this plot.
This is the find out part of it.
Yeah, the find out part of it. So in comparison to all the other books, the third and the fourth book are good because they're a bit more advanced than the first and second book in terms.
But still lighthearted. Yeah, until the end of the fourth book when we actually witness the first death with our own eyes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's why, gentle listeners,
That's my boy.
I prefer to reread the third and fourth book. Anyway, going back to...
Wait. Here, yes, let's get back to the book, because here is where my favorite characters of all the books enter. The ones and the onlys. Gred and Forge.
Fred and George Weasley, guys.
Love them. And this is the part where they decide to play a joke on their mom and find it hilarious. And Molly's not even angry.
Something I like about the writing is that J.K. Rowling, as we've talked about when she writes Hagrid's speech, is she actually changes how the word is spelt in order to convey a certain accent. And we have that here with hello, dear, Hullo.
Yeah, I've noticed that too. That was also the case of Draco Malfoy back at the Madame Malkins. That was also the spelling there.
Yeah. So I appreciate that. I think it adds to any writer, if we have any writers listening. I think that's something you should consider and not often done.
I really want to pay attention to the illustration of the Weasley family in the Minalima edition of the book.
The Minalima edition is an illustrated version done by the people who did the graphic and set design for the Harry Potter films. Please continue, Xenia.
Yes, so here we see not the whole Weasley family, but Molly Weasley and 5 of her children. 4 boys and the girl. So you can see in this illustration that they're dressed quite old-fashioned. You can see that Molly is dressed very, very 70s. There's a lot of floral patterns, and they have a blend of muggle and wizard clothes on. So Molly and Ginny both have cloaks on, and the boys do not. And we know that the boys at this point, they're like much more familiar with the muggle world, so they know better how to blend in. And I absolutely love the facial expressions of Fred and George. They also look like they wear makeup.
So this is a audio medium, so we cannot convey a lot of this to our dear listeners.
Yes, but they're very mischievous looking.
If you ever get the chance to look at it, I think it's a great illustration. We also have Percy in the background reading a book.
Yeah, which to me, he looks like mini Arthur. And Ron, who is as tall as he's described to be, he's almost as tall as the twins.
It's interesting. I keep forgetting about how tall Ron is, because he's never not tall. That's the thing.
Yep, he's always described as lanky, tall and lanky, and here he's described as very much a very tween boy, very angular and disproportionate. He's thin and gangling with freckles, big hands and feet, and a long nose. So this reminds me of a description of like an adolescent puppy when they have large paws that they have to grow into.
Or like Koshka.
He also had to grow into his paws. His paws were enormous.
Koshka's my cat, gentle listener.
His paws were enormous when he was a kitten. I was always just shocked.
I think there's a choice of words here which seems innocuous but actually tells us a lot about Ron and is affirmed by Ron himself. She pointed at the last and youngest of her sons. Ron will very quickly explain that all of his brothers are older than him and have been to Hogwarts before, and they've all been notable in some way. Bill was head boy. Charlie was captain of the Quidditch team. Percy's a prefect. Fred and George are very popular, very funny, and even though they mess around, they get great grades. And so anything Ron does, it's not going to make him stand out. But he's also still expected to like maintain that level of achievement. And also, he's he gets nothing new. Everything he gets is the last time it will belong to a Weasley boy. I think it's described really well. Oh, here we go. You never get anything new either with five brothers. I got Bill's old robes, Charlie's old wand, and Percy's old rat. Like, and that's something that's going to be affecting Ron for most of the books. It's only and I remember this very clearly because in the 7th book, Ron, after he has his break with Harry, when he comes back, he grows up quite a lot really quickly. He
mans up.
He finally gets over this sort of feeling of inadequacy, which has been implied to him throughout his entire life. I don't know. I have a secret soft spot for Ron. I don't know, secret. I'm telling a podcast, so it's pretty open. But who would say that Ron was their favorite character? Your favorite character was either Harry or Hermione growing up. I don't know if you had a different experience, if people in your life was like, yeah, Ron was my favorite character.
Most of Ron, any relationship to Ron trains were coming off of the movies because in the movies he was written as such a comic relief. And he was so goated in the books, not necessarily in the most part of the first book because he's not very nice, especially to Hermione for most of this book. And then you can see that he actually has pretty great strategic mind. And he is intended to be as our introduction into the wizarding world. He is our guide in there because he knows everything. And he remains that for the rest of the books.
There's also, this has always really bugged me, where Hermione in the movies got some of Ron's best moments.
Yeah.
Yeah. Where I saw an interview with the writer of, I think, the 3rd movie. Because it's really, I always thought it was like one of Ron's best moments where, if you remember in the 3rd book, he has a broken leg.
Yeah, he has a broken leg and he's clutching to the rat and he's, no, if you have a problem with him, you gotta get through us first.
Yeah, Ron can't walk. His wand, I don't think he even has it at that point, and he's still willing to die for him.
To throw hands.
Yeah.
He's, no, you stay away.
And not to just anybody. He's willing to throw hands with the person he's been told is the darkest, most dangerous wizard besides Voldemort. Yeah.
So Ron has some balls on him.
And they give this line to Hermione in the film. And I'm not saying Hermione wouldn't also be brave. She's clearly brave. But Ron has a certain bravery, which, like, some people would call it stupidity, but I call it, like, the sort of bravery when someone fights a war they're going to lose just because they know it's the right thing to do.
Isn't that just the whole point of Gryffindor?
No, because not all Gryffindors are like that. Hermione wouldn't do that. She would retreat and try and find a different way. Ron would stand.
Oh, I know about her ways. Hermione would blackmail a grown witch.
Yeah, but Ron would stand. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. And he never really gets credit for that. I think part of that why is because he's very insecure. He's open about that to Harry, and that affects him. But why wouldn't that affect a boy like him? Because he and Harry are great friends, but it's not helpful to an insecure boy to be friends with a famous boy.
I know, right?
Yeah.
But also, would he have done better on his own?
I don't know, but maybe.
I don't think so, actually.
Because him and Harry are great friends. They stand by each other. Harry's right next to him at the failed battle.
Yeah.
Or the failing battle. But it is something I can understand, as especially looking back, like the lack of love that Ron gets from the fandom is an extension of how we like characters who are more interesting in ways that don't make us have to look at the parts of ourselves that we don't like. And does anyone looking at the parts of themselves where they're insecure?
Yeah, that's true. I do the description of the steaming engine. However, before that, I've been bugging you about this for the last couple days because I genuinely do not understand the concept of the barrier between the platforms, because this is not how I imagine or saw railway stations. I don't understand what is the barrier between the platforms, because I even looked up the interior of the King's Cross station, and there is nothing that I would describe as a barrier between the platforms, because platforms 9 and 10, they are just on different sides of the same runway style concrete raised platform. So on one side is just train that goes from number 9, the other side train that goes from number 10. And yeah, so this is a concept that's really hard to grasp for me. I understand how they showed it in the movies. I do understand where it is in the movies, but I don't think this is how it is described in the book.
Well, J.K. Rowling lived in Scotland. And if she's off about this, she's off in a very small way. 'Cause what she was thinking of was essentially just the difference between platforms 8 and 9 or 10 and 11.
I guess, yeah.
And also, we have to, before we can commit to this, we can't just look at photos on the internet. They could be fake. We, for the sake of authenticity, have to go to King's Cross Station.
All right.
Yeah.
Bet.
Yeah.
Bet.
So put a pin in this. We can't confirm until
we are there.
Because what if from the other angle, not in the photos, it's very easy to see. I know that King's Cross Station has installed a Harry Potter 9 3/4 thing.
They did.
So maybe that will also help us learn. Sorry.
Yes, and I do the description of the steaming engine and how it is a scarlet train. I love that. It's supposed to be flashy, and I do love that. It's very fashionable.
I appreciate that the smoke is not colored this time.
This time. Well, the green got green smoke. Okay,
Green smoke.
yeah, I know what you mean.
Yeah.
And here we get introduced to none other but Neville and his grandma, Augusta. This is the first time that Neville lost his toad.
And then we get introduced to Lee Jordan, who has a tarantula in a box.
A giant tarantula. Also, another thing about Lee Jordan. So here he is described to have dreadlocks. So for somebody from the Anglosphere, would that immediately imply the race?
Yeah, that's...
Yeah.
White people can have dreadlocks, but they shouldn't.
Yeah, that's appropriation because also dreadlocks did not make it into the Russian translation.
What did they have instead?
He just has curly hair.
Oh, that's not technically wrong. It's the wrong style, but...
Yeah, it's just, I don't know. It's probably because a Russian reader would not be as exposed to traditional black hairstyles.
I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. Does it also have something to do with the fact that Russians are quite racist?
That too. Yeah. But
not that they don't know what dreadlocks are, that it wasn't included in this book.
That also might be the issue, but also I don't know if at the age that I read the book I would have known what dreadlocks are.
Yeah, so maybe they just took it out for the audience, not in a nefarious way, but they transliterated it for the culture. They did a cultural translation.
Because when I was an older teenager, 13, 14, I absolutely knew what dreadlocks are. They were actually quite in fashion. The D and SE dreadlocks, the colorful fake dreadlocks. For alternative people, they were quite in fashion.
But I went to the bookstore today, and Harry Potter, the first couple books are in the 9 to 12-year-olds.
Okay.
So I think that maybe they just did a cultural translation.
Probably. But also here we get George, my heart, helping Harry and asking Fred to help him to help Harry. It's just, I don't know. It's a balm to my soul, the twins. And we get the blimey.
Blimey.
Blimey, are you? He is, aren't you? Love the twin banter.
It is. I will give credit to the screenwriters and the actors who played Fred and George. They essentially kept this vibe for how they talk for the entire movie, even when they went out of the source text.
Yep. It's like just finishing each other sandwiches.
I have here what I think is an error. So, one hand, it was one of the red-haired twins he'd followed through the ticket box. When did he go through the ticket box? The ticket box is where you give your ticket or you get it stamped or something.
So there was a ticket box that he was perusing, as in if he should tap his wand against it. So I assume it is somewhere along the platform or something. It's like it has to be somewhere along the wall or whatever.
So, but I was reviewing this. In platform 9 3/4, as soon as we get in, there is no ticket box.
There is.
Where?
He wondered if he should get out his wand and start tapping the ticket box between platform 9 and 10.
No, but that's not in platform 9 3/4. That's before. And he doesn't follow Fred and George there.
So apparently the going into the 9 3/4 is
that's not
barrier. And then on the other side is the ticket box.
There isn't though. We have it as soon as he goes through, he's at the platform.
Not at the magical side of it.
Never mind. No. Okay. So I have it here. A Scarlet steam engine was waiting next to a platform packed with people. A sign overhead said Hogwarts Express, 11 o'clock. Harry looked behind him and saw a wrought iron archway where the ticket box had been, with the words platform 9 3/4 on it. He had done it. So apparently the barrier that Harry runs through is a ticket box.
Or the ticket box is on the other side of it.
Okay.
I believe this is how it is in the movie.
Okay. I still feel that this is inaccurate to say that he followed the boy through the ticket box, but okay.
But
sure.
okay, yes.
Yeah. It's also that it would have been better here I think, as a writing thing to just say the boy he followed through the barrier, because that's how we've been discussing it throughout the chapter.
I guess, yeah.
Yeah.
JK, what are you doing?
There's also, are you still trying to do the sound effects?
Huh?
That's not a good sound effect. Anyway, we have, so I think is a great line to describe Harry's relationship to fame, where Harry Potter coursed the twins. Oh, him, said Harry. Yes, I am. Where the idea of Harry Potter in the wizarding world is someone completely separate from Harry.
Oh, yeah.
And he's, oh yeah, that guy. Yep, that's me.
Yep, that's me. And I love the absolute such a mum moment with the handkerchief and Ron's dirty nose. I don't know if you have ever been subjected to licking the handkerchief and then rubbing the dirt off your face.
No, I haven't.
I have, and multiple times. And this, I feel so attacked right now.
And here we have, I'm going to say, I don't think the twins are bad brothers to Ron. I think they could be nicer because his mom's being embarrassing in front of all his possible new friends. And they make it worse because they go, has Ickle Ronnie got something on his nosy?
They're just bugging him because he's their younger brother.
But
you have an older brother, you know that's what they do.
My brother never did that to me. I would have beat him.
Yeah, you almost killed him.
Guy, if listeners, we're totally fine now, and I was 6, so it's fine. But
that
as an adult, not even as an adult, as like an 11 or 12-year-old, my brother, I think, was partially terrified of me. So no, he would not have done that. But I'm just saying they could be nice. And then
they do that to everybody, including their older brother, Percy.
Yeah, but that's different being mean to your older brother than your younger brother. I don't know, maybe as a younger sibling myself, there were moments where my brother was, aside from being slightly terrified of me, could have been kinder.
That's true. But
you know,
I'm the only child. I have no idea about that.
Yeah.
I've never had any
siblings. That's why I'm bringing it up. I'm just saying a nice thing for their mom to do would have just been like, hey, instead of doing this thing that she does later where she's look after Ron in front of everybody, she could have taken them aside and just been
that is embarrassing. That
yeah.
I agree.
Yeah, she could have just taken them aside and been like, hey, I know you guys pick on him a bit, like in a brotherly way, but your job is to look after him. And she doesn't exactly do that. And look, she's a mom from the 90s. I don't know if that necessarily excuses it, but like I feel for Ron because every good intention in this interaction has no benefit to him. And in anything, it makes it worse.
Isn't that how you are when you are a tween? You're completely embarrassed by everything your parents do.
Yeah, but the brothers could have done something nicer. Any of them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sure.
Our listeners who are the younger sibling will understand what I'm bringing up here.
I would not, apparently.
No, this is only child nonsense. Then we have Percy, who is a prefect, and
we didn't know.
He's very proud of it, and the twins make fun of him.
Wait, he's a prefect?
He's a prefect. I know. Now, I feel less bad about this because we learn more about Percy later, and for a lot of this series, he is, to take a Britishism, a prat.
There's something that I have noted about Percy in the next chapter, though, and we're going to talk about it in the next chapter.
Yep. We also have something here. Percy got new robes. And we also find out a bit later that Percy also got a new owl for becoming a prefect. So Percy's having a good time. He also has a separate compartment just for prefects. Something, though, that I
VIP
was thinking of, we find out a little bit later that Bill was head boy. So I was thinking about this. So our listeners might not know this, but my mother and brother both went to traditional British schools. Now, my brother, I didn't bother to ask him whether or not they had prefects or head boys, but I'd ask my mom because I cared about that when I was young, and she went to a traditional British school just in Canada. And my mother was a prefect.
Wow.
Yeah. And also, though, something interesting, though. Look, maybe they'll be... Wow. You're just a little bit delayed on the sound effects. Oh, okay, fine. Okay. So in her school, in order to become head girl, it was a girls-only school, you had to be a prefect beforehand. So I do wonder, because also in Hogwarts...
Apparently you don't.
Apparently you don't. You can just become head boy or head girl.
Yeah.
Apropos of not being.
Yeah.
Because James and Lily were head boy and girl.
Yeah, but
not
but
prefect.
Lupin was prefect.
Yeah. I'm wondering how this system works. And I'm like, oh, I should look into how British systems work. And I found out each school is a little bit different. I'm like, never mind. I just have to accept the Hogwarts lore of this all.
Live, laugh, lore.
Yeah. So going back to the boys weren't very nice. The mom asks them to be nice to Ron. And they go, don't worry, Ickle Ronnykins is safe with us.
This is after she gives him a wonderful idea of blowing up the toilet.
Yeah. And then Mrs. Weasley, in my mind, is immediately redeemed because the twins go, hey, we just met Harry Potter on the train. And Ginny wants to go look at him, and she immediately goes, no, you're not going to stare at the boy like he's an animal in the zoo. Now, she's clarifying, is it really him? She's also a little bit starstruck, but she doesn't allow that to allow for cruel or odd behavior. Fred is, do you think he remembers what you-know-who looks like? She's immediately just, nope, you're not going to do that. And so then the boys get on the train and the train's leaving. Ginny is crying. I wonder, though, what it was like for her being alone for that year. That's the first time in her life she's been an only child.
Yeah, I wonder, did that feel like it felt for me growing up? Just being on your own, but also Molly's home all the time.
Yep. So maybe it was a good time for them. I'm not sure. I can understand why she really wants to go right now when all of her brothers are going off, but I do wonder what her year at home was like.
Hi, editing Nikki here. This part cut out, but we were going to say, so Ron comes into Harry's compartment.
So there's a couple times in the chapter where I distrust what the kids are saying as their reason for things, but I believe that Ron was too nervous or insecure to go into a compartment full of people.
That is believable, yes.
Yeah. Look at how just in the time we've known him, how his family has reacted to him, not in a way that breeds confidence in a boy.
And so other brothers, Fred and George, leave to look at the giant tarantula, which is also not allowed in Hogwarts. It's illegal. But when has it ever stopped them?
And Harry and Ron immediately start chatting, and they're friends. They're cool. And there's a great line here where Harry wants to know if all of Ron's family is wizards, and Ron says, yeah, I think so, but Mom has a second cousin who's an accountant, but we never talk about him.
We don't talk about Bruno.
Which makes me wonder, is it because he's an accountant or because he's a squib, probably?
We still are not introduced to the concept of squib in this book.
Yeah. I also wonder, does that mean that wizards don't have accountants?
Huh.
Who counts all the gold?
The goblins.
Do they? Because they might count it when it's in Gringotts, but what about when you're running a business? You don't have goblins working in your bookkeeping department. The goblins
probably do it all
Gringotts.
yourself.
I don't know.
Or your assistants, because Fred and George, they did have an assistant.
Maybe a bookkeeper then?
When they were running their shop, they did have an assistant.
I enjoy that accountant is the most muggle profession.
But is he a spicy accountant or a regular accountant? I like how careful Ron is trying to be. He's really trying not to stare. He's really trying not to say the wrong thing. He's just trying to be very careful about approaching Harry. And then he immediately overshares completely. And Harry can really relate to the hand-me-downs, never having anything new, because that's literally what happened to him during all his life at the Dursleys.
It's something I appreciate is that Harry tells Ron this.
Yeah.
And we don't get to see it because in this moment, J.K. Rowling did a very good writing technique, which is not repeating something in dialogue, which has already been said in the story. But there's something else here that I really like where Ron says, what are muggles like? I heard you went to go live with them. And Harry says horrible. And then immediately caveats, not all of them, just the ones
that I live with.
Yeah. Where that shows again, he has some critical thinking skills, perhaps.
I also like how when Ron tells Harry about Scabbers is useless, he hardly ever wakes up, and that his parents couldn't afford a pet for him, and Harry didn't think that there was anything wrong with not being able to afford an owl. I appreciate the sentiment. However, I don't think he knows how much an owl costs because he got his as a present.
How much does an owl cost?
We never get a cost of an owl.
So here's the thing. So we get a paragraph where Ron explains what we've already talked about, how his brothers were all really impressive, and he hasn't gotten anything new. He has Bill's old robes, Charlie's old wand, and Percy's old rat. Now, there's two things here of note. The first one we'll talk about briefly is we know now that this rat is Peter Pettigrew. And I talked about this a couple episodes ago, but I brought up the idea of gardeners. Do you remember?
Yep.
So listeners, if you don't remember, there's a couple different styles of writing in fantasy or sci-fi. And this was J.K. Rowling's first book. So I don't think she was necessarily thinking about that, like what style she would use. But something she applied later is a technique called gardening. And I think this is great evidence of that, where she took what she had written in her previous book and she saw what she could expand upon to be used in a more elaborate way. So I don't get the impression that in this book she thought that Scabbers was Peter Pettigrew, just also because of how he reacts later in the chapter. We've talked how he, out of nothing, attacks the Malfoy's crony, despite Peter Pettigrew would agree with Malfoy and his crony were saying and doing. But I think it's a really great example of J.K. Rowling finding something that she'd written earlier and turning it into something more. But what's also hilarious is if you take it from the perspective that it was always Peter Pettigrew and she always knew, he's so depressed. He's just sleeping all the time.
He's just eating and sleeping.
Also, rats don't live 13 years.
We learn about that in the third book.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We also know because we own rats and they do not live that long.
No, we're hoping for 3 years.
Yeah. So the second thing I want to bring up is, so we know that Percy got new robes and a new owl as congratulations for becoming a prefect. And this would be a time where I would really appreciate some numbers. I know that most authors don't give numbers for things, but it would be really nice to know the price of the owl and the robes, because I have to think it's less than a new wand. Because we talked about this a bit last chapter. They 100% should have gotten Ron his own wand.
Yes, because he's so incapacitated with having a hand-me-down wand.
Yeah.
Also, that means Charlie has a different wand now.
Yeah. So like, why, though?
So, yeah, is there a concept of multiple wands being able to choose the wizard or to fit the wizard? Also, there is a theory out there that Charlie then made his own wand with his own dragon heartstring thing, because he's dragon aligned, and this is a unicorn hair wand.
Yeah, we know that Neville gets a new wand, but that's after his wand got destroyed in the Ministry attack.
Yes.
So,
and before that, he had his father's wand.
And also, that's something of note because Neville's known for not being very good at magic. And then what's the class that he's great at? Herbology, a class that doesn't really need a wand.
Yes.
And then we also see him becoming really good at magic when he has his own wand.
Yes.
I understand that in this chapter, it's meant to convey a sense of poverty. And I will say this is somewhere where J.K. Rowling did the opposite of gardening. She retconned. And look, all authors retcon, but the idea that you would give someone their old wand just doesn't really make sense with what we know of wands. The only reason it makes sense for Neville, first of all, we don't know in this book that's what he's using. And also, when we do find out he's using his father's own wand, we learn about his parents and how he's never had parents because they've been essentially
tortured into insanity.
So it makes sense that he would want something that connects him to his family.
Because a wand, in a sense, is becoming a part of a wizard, an extension of a wizard, and a friend. I would apply that word as well, a friend, to the point where the wand is not in the proximity. It causes a lot of stress. So
there's some lore in the 7th book about who is the master of a wand based on who's been disarmed. And I don't think that really applies here because we're not talking about mastering a wand. We're just talking about learning magic.
Yes.
And you don't need to be the master of a wand to use a wand, but you should have your own wand to learn magic with.
Yeah.
Yeah. So J.K. Rowling has some good gardening, but also she does some retconning in ways that don't help her reputation with me at not being very good at world building.
Not just with you.
Not just with me, because authors can retcon stuff. Well, later in the pod, much later, we're going to be rereading, spoiler alert, A Song of Ice and Fire. Yeah. And there's this very notable scene in the first book where the author does something which is very heavily retconned later in a way that isn't, not the retcon is subtle, but it's very obvious that the author is retconning it because now this one thing he wrote in the first book is so out of the ordinary and doesn't make sense anymore. And so a lot of authors do it. Established authors do it. Martin had been writing as a professional writer at that point for 20 years. Shit happens. But I think it's where shit happens also her first book. See, shit starts happening a lot, especially in the first 2 books.
Yeah, I agree. It's just, again, the world is not fleshed out entirely yet. It's still establishing. And we are learning about this world together with Harry.
Yeah. And I think that's Harry's main attraction to Ron at first is Ron's knowledge of the wizarding world, but also that he and Ron had a similar upbringing of not having.
Yeah.
There's also a really great moment here where Harry uses the word Voldemort and Ron is shocked. And Harry's just like, look, that's the thing. I don't even know that I'm supposed to be afraid of it.
I don't even know what I don't know.
And that is something that, in retrospect, I love not knowing that I should be afraid of something because it just makes life easier. You're like, I don't feel that fear. It's fine. And then we have Harry. He repeats the point he made with Hagrid where I don't think I'll be any good. And Ron immediately is a great friend because he goes, you won't be. There's loads of people who come from Muggle backgrounds and they learn quick enough.
Which, again, I guess also shows where the Weasley family values lie.
And then we get the great line, anything off the trolley, dears. Gentle listeners, so as you have learned, I did not grow up around trains being something in my life. So the idea that you get snacks off a trolley was great and interesting because you can get them on in an airport, but like my parents were not paying extra on the airplane for snacks. Do you know what I mean? This was magic to me that there was these trains that you could just take your pocket money and buy stuff.
In Russia, you can get snacks or whatever, food, drinks, magazines from the salespeople who walk through the trains, but those are only short distance trains.
I thought it was great when I was taking the train from St. Petersburg to Moscow, you could order it to your seat.
Oh, you were taking the fast train?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a little bit of a different service.
Okay.
So in the short distance trains, like the ones we took to Viborg, but we took the fancy one. So
wait, sorry, that was the fancy one?
Yeah.
Oh.
The fast train. That was the fancy one.
That was not, but you mean fancy like it was fast, not like fancy like the train was supposed to be fancy, right?
So that is the train that the travel time is so short that they don't do this kind of service in there.
Yeah, but I'm just clarifying. The train was not supposed to look nice, right?
No.
Okay, good. Because
No.
I'm like, that was just a train. It wasn't particularly.
But it was fancier than the not fast train.
Really?
Yes. So the not fast train has wooden benches.
Oh, I tried those when another point. So listeners, I would spend my weekends traveling around Russia with another friend, not Sanya. She had work. And one of the trains I took there had the wooden benches.
Yeah. So those trains with wooden benches would be mostly the trains where you would get salespeople who would like walk through the trains and offer you pirashki, drinks, and magazines. They are not commissioned or employed by the railway company. They are
Independent contract.
They're not even contracted.
Oh, they're independent business people.
They're independent business people who are doing this illegally. So yeah.
Oh, Senya, can you do something for me?
Yeah.
Say businessman in Russian.
Businessmen.
I love that.
So
I love it when Russian just takes English words and they're like, we'll put an accent on it. It's Russian now.
They're a businessman.
Yeah.
Businessmen.
What's businesswoman?
Businesswoman.
Yeah. I was afraid you were going to say we don't have those.
Huh? Emotional damage.
So we have a list of sweets here, and this list became a gift to the people who made merch for Harry Potter. Because the woman doesn't have any Mars bars, but she does have Bertie Bott's Every Flavored Beans, Drubal's Best Blowing Gum, Chocolate Frogs, Pumpkin Pasties, Cauldron Cakes, licorice wands, and a number of other strange things Harry had never seen in his life.
So I always wondered, what are pasties? Because the only pasties I know are the stickers that you put on your nipples.
So you're not the only one who had this question as a kid. So it is a British snack. I'm bringing it up for you so you can look at it. Oh, these are all pies. Why is the internet like... See, ever since AI was introduced, it's bad now. The internet is bad now.
Breaking news, our gentle listeners. The internet is bad.
It kind of looks like a calzone.
Looks like pirajok.
Yeah, so it's like a calzone.
Okay.
Got stuff
so
in
it's
it, but like the
un
sweet
pirожок.
versions are different. I remember that. So what I was hoping to get to here. So there have been a few instances in my life where I have gotten to have the Harry Potter candies. I remember the first one. For a time in my life, my family was taking a lot of American airline flights, and their airline hub is Dallas Fort Worth, or at least it was at that point. I don't know if it still is. And there was a candy shop there, and it sold normal candy, but it also sold Bertie Bott's every flavored beans from the world of Harry Potter. And I was like 10, so I was like really in Harry Potter at this point. So every time we went to this airport, and we went to this airport quite a lot, I made them get me. And they always had the same flavors as they list in this chapter. They have ordinary ones like chocolate, peppermint, and marmalade, but then you get spinach and liver and tripe.
Ooh.
And the bogey flavored one that George reckons he got, that was there as well.
Oh my God.
Sprouts, that was there as well. Toast, coconut, baked beans, strawberry, curry, grass. I remember grass very distinctly.
Sardines.
Coffee and sardine. Yeah, they were all there. And peppermint, or pepper, sorry. So they just copy pasted that. But I remember because grass tasted really like grass.
So if you haven't ever tried grass, you're lying.
Yeah, I think any kid who's being honest with themselves, any adult who used to be a kid, which is all adults, is being honest with themselves. They know what grass tastes like.
I do. I also know what tree bark tastes like.
There was also, when I was in London, older, my mom took me on a Harry Potter walking tour where they showed you in London where they filmed different bits of Harry Potter. And we stopped in a candy shop, which had a Harry Potter package. So they had licorice wands, but they were the off-brand licorice one. And they made dark marks out of licorice.
Ooh.
Yeah, it was.
Okay.
So we're still trying to get to Harry Potter world.
We are.
If any of our listeners could comment on the podcast, which one is the best? Because there's Florida, there's Japan. Where's the other one?
There is the Warner Brothers studio in London.
In London, okay.
Yeah, that's the one that I want to see. And also, yeah, I've heard that the Japan one is kind of the best.
Yeah, because we gotta go and
We gotta go.
gotta go.
We gotta go. And here we get our introduction to none other than Albus
Dumbledore.
Dumbledore. Actually, Harry gets a chocolate frog card with Dumbledore in. So this is Dumbledore. Don't tell me you've never heard of Dumbledore. Well, he has. It's just never seen him. And Harry reads an important piece of trivia from the card. And there is a very popular theory about the chocolate frog cards that Dumbledore uses them as a spying device because all he cares is they can kick me out of Gamma, but as long as I'm on chocolate frog cards, I'm fine.
I don't believe this theory, but I think it's nice. Just
Yeah,
because I think that would be
cool
too busy.
theory.
Yeah.
It's a cool theory, but yeah.
I will also say this is a moment where we see, I think, some very good gardening from J.K. Rowling. Because we have the defeat of the Dark Wizard Grindelwald in 1945. And she's going... Yeah, yes, they were gay for each other. And she's going to mine that in the 7th book.
Good.
And
Getting a kick out of it.
okay. Really? Come on. I'm trying to talk on our podcast, Sanya. So she also uses this. I think this is the intentional part where she mentions Nicholas Flamel.
Done.
And he's going to be useful later. So I may have talked about this before, but I think that J.K. Rowling in her post Harry Potter life, we don't talk about Cursed Child, has pretty much stayed with mystery writing. And when you read the books, you really see that's where her strength is because she puts these little hints through of what the mystery is going to be, what we need to know, that sort of thing. And the second book, I think, is a better example than this book because she has all the hints if you're willing to look for them, that Ginny has the diary and is being possessed. I think I understand why her post-Harry Potter career has moved away from fantasy into mysteries and detective novels. I think that's where her stronger writing ability is. I also understand she did fantasy for a very long time and was huge in that field. Anything she wrote in fantasy after Harry Potter would be less than, even if it was a better book.
I agree.
So I understand why she changed what she wanted to do, got a pen name, and moved on. This will be something I want to keep in mind. What are the 12 uses of dragon's blood? I'm sure it's in our copy of Magical Beasts and Where to Find Them. But
It probably is.
yeah, I don't think it ever comes up, though, again.
From the top of my head, I can only remember one which is when Slughorn uses dragon blood as fake human blood. Do you think this is one of the...
Maybe. I always wondered why someone concerned with money would use dragon blood. So maybe it's cheap. I don't know. Pigs are right there. I also wanted to bring up, so our listeners will know that we have the conversion rate for wizarding money to muggle money. And I did the math on what Harry paid the woman for all of these sweets. And it was $9.60 in today's money.
Not bad.
Yeah. This is something where I'm building my case that the wizarding world doesn't understand inflation. But I also understand, like, maybe as an adult, the amount of candy they got wouldn't seem too much. But, like, for a kid, that's, like, going wild. You know what I mean?
Yes.
I can always tell when Xenia has no interest in my point because she's just like, oh, okay, sure.
Okay, and then the next thing we get is a little bit of a nod to both Marilyn and Morgana being canon in the universe of Harry Potter, as well as Paracelsus being magical.
So Harry's going through all these different cards, and we get some lists of known wizards and witches. We have Dumbledore and Morgana. Morgana is the sister of King Arthur and is also a witch. We have Hengist of Woodcroft, Alberic, Grunion, Circe. Well, Circe, yeah. I'm not going to say this right.
Paracelsus.
Paracelsus and Merlin. And then we also have the Druidess,
Cleodna.
So for those who don't know, Circe is a very famous character from Greek myth who is a witch. There's a great book written about her called Circe by Madeline Miller. If nobody's read it, I would highly recommend it. It is different. Morgana is obviously from the Arthurian legend. I was curious, did you guys know about the Arthurian legend in Russia growing up?
Well, we were aware of King Arthur and the whole Camelot shebang, mostly from popular media.
Yeah. I had a series when I was growing up it was like something to do with this magic treehouse. And it was Morgana's treehouse. And if you read a book in it, you would go to the time and place of that book. And so I wanted to check this. I don't think Hengist of Woodcroft was a person outside of Harry Potter. The only one I can find from the scholarly resource Wikipedia was Hengist and the brother Horsa, who were legendary Germanic brothers who, according to later English legends, led the Angles, Saxons, and Jutes, the progenitors of the modern English people in their invasion of Great Britain in the 5th century. So is this...
I don't think so.
Are we sure? Now I want to look.
We can't be sure.
So on Potterlex, it says that the name is shared with a legendary Germanic figure who, along with his brother Horsa, led the Anglo-Saxon invasion of England. Okay, here we go.
The Harry Potter lexicon is the website that I told everyone about.
Never mind. He is a Scottish wizard who founded Hogsmeade. Okay.
That's great of him.
That's great, but it's not nearly the same. I want to see who this other guy is. Okay, so Alberic Grenion invented the dung bomb in Harry Potter lore. And then Merlin, obviously, we know. And then the last one here, who I believe is also Greek, is Paracelsus. Let me check.
He's quite famous.
Is he?
Yep.
You know him?
Yes.
Greek?
Yes.
No, he was a Swiss physician. Yep. He was a Swiss physician, alchemist, and lay theologian and a philosopher of the German Renaissance.
Oh, you're right, Switzerland.
Yeah. He's the alchemist who wed medicine to magic. Yeah, so I'm not seeing any other...
Paracelsus.
Yeah, Paracelsus. So I think this was also, again, J.K. Rowling doing some gardening and dropping in some alchemists. We also have, the last one is the Druidess, Cleodna. Now, Xenia, you're more into the Harry Potter backstory and lore. You've actually watched all of the Fantastic Beasts movies. So are druids ever mentioned again as a different form of magic?
No, even not in the Fantastic Beasts from what I remember. Not in the movie source material, but in the Fantastic Beasts book.
Really? Wow. Okay.
They're not.
So Cleodna is someone from Irish mythology.
Yep.
So she has her own...
So if she's Irish, then her name should be pronounced as, I think, Cleena.
Okay. I'm not going to do that, but yeah. So it's interesting. So the reason why this stays with me is... So I get the idea that the inclusion of Druidess here was to make a distinction between what we think of wand magic and some more Irish mythology, which I think is vaguely respectful of J.K. Rowling to point out that this is something different. I think it would have been really interesting because we know from the Harry Potter lore that in Africa they have wordless magic. So I think it would have been interesting to have different types of magic in this world. Like druid magic versus wizard or witch magic.
I agree. But I also think that the source of magic, like magic itself,
it would be the same.
Would be the same. It's just the way of magic, bending the magic would be different.
Yeah. So if I ever get the contract to rewrite Harry Potter, I think I would include something like that, like types of magic.
As I've told you, I have tried to imagine what would be the way of a different school be, like a school that is very unlike Hogwarts be.
It would be interesting. There's been critiques about the Hogwarts school system because it's the best one, but it's also the only English speaking, besides the one in America, but that's in America, so we don't talk about that. But it's the only wizarding and witchcraft school within the United Kingdom. I guess you could go to Beauxbaton or Drumstrang, which we know that Draco's father thought about sending him there.
Yeah.
So it's one of those things where they're like, oh, Hogwarts is the best, but the only people who say that are people who are going to Hogwarts.
They're biased?
I'm kind of wondering, is there someone being like, Drumstrang is actually where magic happens? And someone else being like, no, Beauxbatons is where magic happens.
From what we know, both those schools, they do the wand magic as their main magic. I would assume that there are other forms of magic that are learned there, taught there.
We don't know because that's not what J.K. Rowling is focusing on. She writes detective mystery novels now and spends too much time on X.
But I would love actually to have time and like peruse on what the Russian School of Magic could have been.
It is something where I think that, so I don't know if you know this, but George R.R. Martin has two people who help him keep track of all his world building. And they do so much work and suggest ideas to him that they're credited on his big world building tome.
Wow.
And I'm just thinking, I think J.K. Rowling would have really benefited from someone like that.
Yeah, I can see the point in that.
Because her strength isn't necessarily world building, but she creates these great characters and a world we do love. So I think it would have been good for her maybe to have some credited writers help her with that. But it's too late. She's not doing it anymore.
We are getting back to the train where Neville is appearing at the compartment and saying that he lost the toad, which keeps me wondering where he lost it. Where is it the same instance of losing the toad, or did he lose Trevor again?
I feel like it would have to be again, because if he lost the toad on the platform, it's on the platform.
It's just it's another thing, because then I think Trevor is a magical toad, because if Neville just lost him at the platform and later in the end of this chapter Hagrid finds Trevor in the boat, that means that Trevor, with no aid, made this travel all on his own.
That's true. I'm going to go with this. Trevor is a magical toad.
He is.
I actually really like how the movie did it, where Trevor's in Hogwarts already.
Yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. I also love the name Trevor for a toad.
Yeah, Trevor is a great name for a toad. Scabbers is not a really great name for anyone.
I think there's a really... Okay, going back to Ron being someone who needs a bit more love and a bit more attention. He tried to turn his rat yellow yesterday to make him more interesting, but the spell didn't work. And this is the line. He might have died and you wouldn't have known the difference.
I highlighted
said
the
Ron
same line.
in disgust. You interrupt me when I'm talking. I'm reading the line verbatim so our listeners know what we're talking about. He might have died and you wouldn't know the difference, said Ron in disgust. Now going about how you...
I underlined the same line because you absolutely would know the difference.
Yeah.
Because we have, and I understand that this is the instance of gardening, so he was not Peter Pettigrew yet there. Mm-hmm. But from the Half-Blood Prince, we know that if it's heavily implied that if an animagus is killed in the animal form, they turn back to human form.
Interesting. I forgot about that because I don't reread that book regularly.
So that's why you would absolutely know the difference, because you would have a naked man.
But I think the Ron saying it in disgust, what it's meant to do is convey that this is another thing, that not only does he get a hand-me-down rat, but the rat is boring.
I'm not even yellow.
So Fred and George gave him a bad spell, which doesn't work. But before he can do it, we meet Hermione Granger. Do you want to do sound effect? There we go. Okay, sound effects. So she's already wearing her new Hogwarts robes. And she comes in and goes, has anyone seen a toad? Neville's lost one. And
I do love the illustration in the Minalima edition because, yeah, Hermione is dressed neatly in her new uniform and she has a bob, which is as bushy and voluminous as it should be, but it's not long.
she also has a cravat in this image and striped tights.
Yep.
So Hermione wants to see the magic, and it doesn't work because it's not a real spell. And Hermione goes, are you sure it's a real spell? Said the girl. It's not very good, is it? I've tried a few simple spells just for practice, and it's all worked for me. Then we learn that Hermione is Muggle-born, and she's learned all of the books for the school off by heart already. She just hopes that'll be enough, and also that she's Hermione if they hadn't picked up on that. And I think this is a really great introduction to her. So first we see her. She has taken a boy who we have been told indirectly is very nervous, taken him under her wing, and is talking to people on his behalf to try and find his toad. Yeah, she went into a compartment that he'd already been into, but that's not the point. She's kind.
She's actually trying to help.
And she's not being mean to Neville because he's too nervous to ask people. She's asking for him. That's great. And then she immediately goes into, I really like magic. I want to learn about magic. I don't think that's magic. I've been trying a few simple spells. I've been reading all my books. Nobody's in my family's magic. I just want to be good at magic. And isn't that the same thing that we just got from Harry where he said, I think I'll be the worst because but because of how Hermione presents it, it's seen as a little bit pompous almost, where I've read all the books in a way that Harry and Ron immediately clock this, and their reaction to Hermione is not that she's Muggle-born, it's not that she has tried a few simple spells herself. It's that they're nervous that they were supposed to read the entire book set off by heart.
Like, I love that Harry feels relieved that he understood that Ron didn't either. And then Hermione realizes that one of the boys she's speaking to is Harry Potter.
Holy cricket, you're Harry Potter. I'm Hermione.
So yeah, that sound effect comes at an awkward point, but I think it's great. I like Holy Cricket, but I don't think she ever says that again.
No.
Yep. Also, is that supposed to be like the kids' version of Holy Crap?
Probably.
Yeah. For our Twilight listeners, you know that the Mormon version of Holy Crap is Holy Crow.
Yep.
Yeah. But so anyway, going back to my Hermione analysis, Hermione learns that Harry is Harry, and she immediately goes like, oh, I know all about you because I got extra books, list the books that Harry is in, and is surprised that Harry hasn't researched himself.
And
his note.
Harry is surprised that he's even in the books. Is like, also, what about privacy and intellectual property rights? What about privacy invasion?
So if you're historically important, there's no such thing as that. But I think what you're thinking about is the idea of like when kids are involved in a court case or something, or a family dispute, you don't get to know their name. There's a publication ban on youth when they commit crimes. Harry hasn't committed a crime. He's done a great service.
That's not what I'm thinking about.
Why would it be? So it's not like they're saying Harry Potter, this is where he lives with the Dursleys, this is how he sleeps. They're just saying this happened, a dark wizard attacked and he died, and this huge magical event happened, and they're describing it.
But then there is not that much to know about him.
But there is, and it's not about that much. It's about the importance of what is known. So I don't think it's a privacy invasion. So then Hermione's been asking about the different houses, and she wants to be in Gryffindor. Dumbledore was in Gryffindor, and Ravenclaw wouldn't be too bad. Anyway, we better go and look for Neville's toad. You two had better change. I expect we'll be there soon.
And she's right.
Yeah. And so this completes our knowledge of the houses. We've learned about Hufflepuff and Slytherin from when the chapter in Diagon Alley. Now we know about Gryffindor and Ravenclaw. I think that, so there's this interaction and the second interaction with Hermione, which I think if it's okay with you, Zane, I'm going to go over them right back to back because I think it tells you a lot about Hermione. So the Draco incident happens, and then Hermione comes into the cabin again by herself. What has been going on? She said, looking at the sweets all over the floor, and Ron picking up Scabbers by the tail. And so then they talk about Malfoy for a bit. Then Ron turns to Hermione and goes, can we help you with something? Which isn't very nice. And Hermione snapped back, like, you better put your robes on. And she's like, you haven't been fighting. You'll get in trouble if you're fighting. And Ron is like, no, we haven't been. Can you leave while we change? And then she says, all right, I only came in here because people outside are behaving very childishly, racing up and down the corridors, said Hermione in a sniffy voice. And you've got dirt on your nose, by the way. Did you know? So something which is interesting is that the first couple months of the term, essentially before Harry Potter, Ron and Hermione are kind of mirrors of each other. Hermione's nervous and insecure, and she's had trouble meeting people on the train. We see this because why is she walking up and down the train in the middle of the time?
Even going to consult with the driver.
Yeah. It's because she's tried to talk to people and it hasn't worked out for her. I get the impression that people haven't been nice to her about being Muggle-born. And she is a little bit harsh with Ron, but Ron's obviously doing a fake spell. And the meanest thing she says is, are you sure that's a real spell? Well, it's not very good, is it? In that interaction, that is the meanest thing she says. And the reason why Ron takes it a bit too much, I think, is because he is insecure about the fact that it's probably not a real spell. And if it is, he wasn't able to do it. And he isn't very nice to her about it. And, you know, she talks quickly, but that's
when people do talk quickly, that means they're nervous.
Exactly. Yeah, I don't think she's had the best time so far. And she's talked to already. She's been asking around, and I hope I'm in Gryffindor. What do you talk about with kids you don't have anything in common with who aren't being very nice to you? You talk about the things that you know you have in common with. You're going to Hogwarts. You're going to be sorted. What house do you think you'll be in? To me, that indicates that she hasn't been able to talk to people about maybe things that are more significant to her. Like Harry's had the opportunity to talk to with Ron, and Ron's had the opportunity to talk to with Harry. Their insecurities, their concerns.
They've been oversharing quite a lot with each other.
Yeah. So then there's a ruckus, and she goes to check on them. And Ron is not nice to her again. She doesn't even do anything at first. She just asks what's been going on. And he is talking to Harry about something very interesting about Draco Malfoy and the Wizarding War. And he just turns to her and goes, can we help you with something? And she reacts on the back foot. She goes, okay, I'm going to give them some information. Well, you better hurry up and put your robes on. She's been up to the front to talk to the driver. She's talking to the driver.
Yep.
Like, that's not a good sign. And she's worried about getting in trouble because she's worried about not being allowed in Hogwarts because she's Muggle-born. I'm interpreting there. That's not in text, but that's so obvious to me. And then he, again, is not very nice to her because he's scowling at her. Would you mind leaving while we change? And she says, all right, I only came in here because people outside are behaving very childishly, racing up and down the corridors. Yeah, they're not including her. So what does she do? She has to act the prefect already.
Yep. That's what I wanted to say. She's like prefect in the making. And of course, you will feel bitter
but
about
also,
being excluded.
That makes sense because what do you do when you're not part of the group, but you don't want to admit that you're a loner? You become the authority who can't be part of the group because they're an authority. And so Ron has been not very nice to her throughout all of this. And the only thing she does in return is, and you've gotten dirt on your nose, by the way, did you know? Now, that's not the nicest thing to say, but I would argue Ron has not been nice to her at all. Harry hasn't been particularly nice, but he hasn't been particularly mean either.
He didn't really say anything.
He hasn't said anything. And then Ron glares at her as he left. In the other interaction, he says, whatever house I'm in, I want her not to be in it.
Yep. And we know that this is not going to happen.
Yeah. And I have so much sympathy for her in this case because she's in this new world and she doesn't have this friendship that Harry and Ron immediately have. And we learn in later chapters that she's not developing friendships with anybody.
That's true. And it is heavily implied that this is precisely because she's Muggle-born. Mm-hmm. Because there is a sense that, so Lavender and Parvati, they become friends like right away. And they're both from wizarding families. Mm-hmm. Later on, we also have implication of that, like even Pansy Parkinson, she knows the Patel twins from somewhere. Mm-hmm. Because of the way that they talk to each other. And
so I mentioned it before, but Ron and her are almost foils of each other. Ron is not foils, sorry, but Ron and her have a lot of similarities here where they're both insecure in the same way that Harry's insecure, but where Harry and Ron find a kindred soul, Hermione gets ostracized. And I can't help but think that's a gendered reaction.
That's what I was thinking about too.
Yeah. Because, like, Ron is acting a bit silly when he meets Harry. Like, he asks him, do you remember the guy who murdered your parents? And Harry doesn't hold that against him. He answers, but he moves on quickly. Where all that Hermione does is try to help someone and not know that he's already asked about the toad. Told Ron that she doesn't think his spell is real, and then her own experience with magic. And
Well, to
what
be fair,
house,
that spell is really silly.
yeah, and what house she wants to be in. And by that alone, and that she talks fast, Ron's like, oh, I don't like her. So it is something where, so it makes me think, because Harry, Ron, and Hermione are going to be friends, really close friends for the next rest of their life. But in the books that we see for the next 7 years, Hermione has no close female friends at all.
Except for when she develops a friendship with Ginny.
But I would never compare her friendship with Ginny to what she has with Ron and Harry.
It's true.
Yeah.
I feel like friendship with Ginny is more like friendship by proximity.
Yeah. Yeah, like she's friends with Ron and Ginny's there. But like I also don't know who Ginny's friends are.
Yeah, because we never see that many of Ginny's friends. We see her romantic interests, guys she's dating. We don't even see like girls from her year or anyone from her year except for Colin Creevey. And to me, it almost feels like both Ginny and Hermione, because Ginny is like she becomes pretty popular with time. And this is also like a stigma of its own. It's almost like Hermione and Ginny, they are just able to be in each other's presence without giving up some part of themselves.
I'm not really sure where you're going with that. Are you thinking being popular is a stigma of itself because it's harder to make friends because people have a preconception of you?
Yep.
So that's what I was thinking. And this brings me to a question. Are Ron, Harry, and Hermione popular? They're well known, I know that, but think about it. Are they popular?
So if we think about it, you can see in the year 4, Harry is quite popular.
With Gryffindors. He's very unpopular with Hufflepuffs and Slytherins.
And he also is very popular in year 1 because of like of the Quidditch and all this stuff that he does.
See,
with Gryffindors.
I'm going to push back on this because, okay.
But also Harry, because we see a lot of what's happening from a narrator that's very close to Harry. Harry does not realize how popular he is, and so does not Ron.
So I'm going to push back on this because I think this goes back to fame versus popularity. And I don't mean fame versus infamy, but everyone knows Harry, and we know in the next chapter or two, everyone's going to be trying to get a look at him. But with the exception of Colin Creevey, he doesn't really at Hogwarts get the, you're a celebrity, I'm going to make myself be liked and liked by you. And also, Harry, Ron, and Hermione do some things which make them very unpopular. They lose 150 points within the first year. They have other acquaintances, like people who have class with them and stuff like that. But we don't see other friends. And then also, we don't see Harry being treated differently because he's on the Quidditch team outside of Quidditch games. He's popular when the crowds cheer, but they're cheering the team at that point. We don't see people being like, it wouldn't apply in the early books because he's 11, but when he's older, we don't see people being like, I don't know what the Quidditch version is of a puck bunny. Do you know what a puck bunny is?
No.
Oh, they're girls who like sleeping with hockey players.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Or people who are fans of a team, that sort of thing. We don't really see that for Harry as an individual until the movies do it a bit. In the later movies, they bring it up. And same in the 6th book, if I remember correctly, at the Quidditch tryouts, a bunch of people come just to get a look at Harry.
So I will also counter with the books 4 and 6, because both Harry and Ron get partners for the Yule Ball who are considered some of the prettiest girls in Hogwarts. They're not just random girls. They're considered very pretty. And those girls go with them because Harry and Ron are popular.
Harry's a champion at that point, and he has to ask if one of them has a friend to take Ron.
That is true. That's true. And then book 6, again, Harry's the Quidditch team captain. Romilda Vane is trying to slip him love potion. Ron gets lavender, but he also wins the Quidditch Cup.
So I will accept the position that later in the books they become popular. I don't think they're popular early on because they mostly keep to themselves. We don't see them being involved in any clubs or hanging out with anyone really besides the Weasleys, sometimes the boys in Harry's dorm. They spend a lot of time with...
What clubs? The Gobstones Club? That's the only club I know.
Yeah, but I'm sure there's others. Because remember in the 5th book, they...
DA?
Yeah, in the 5th book, they dissolve all clubs. So that implies there's more than one.
Also, I have to argue that the existence of DA has to mean Harry's popularity because a lot of people come to the meeting, even though they are somewhat suspicious about that. But then they have to convince Harry that, hey, you're actually good at it. And we all know that.
But they also say when they're at that meeting for the DA, they're there because they want to know whether or not Harry's actually done those things. That's not popularity. That's gossip. Significant gossip. Also, they're being incentivized by the fact that Umbridge is horrible. So I would accept the argument that it's popularity if Harry was able to do it without Umbridge being a negative incentive for people to look for other ways to do it. I also wonder that maybe it would have been easier to see whether or not Harry was popular if we had more interaction in the earlier books with just other people. See, now we know they're treated differently by the staff, particularly Harry, because Harry gets to play Quidditch when first years aren't allowed brooms. Harry is 100% treated differently by Dumbledore for, I think, a very legitimate reason. He's the key to winning a big war. But we see later in book 5, Professor Dumbledore considers the fact that Ron feels insecure and that he doesn't have achievement and makes him a prefect. Dumbledore takes an interest in the psychology of one of his students to name them prefect. Like, that's taking an interest. That's special treatment. I understand why Hermione was named prefect. She's doing prefect work in this chapter. And then also Hermione gets a time turner, which she has to get special ministry permission for in the 3rd year.
Yeah, but also
I don't think that's because they're popular with students. I think that's because the staff are treating them differently. And if anything, I would think that would make the students dislike them because they're getting special treatment. And at least some of the special treatment, the one with Harry, is known.
What I consider popularity is the fact that they're well known and also they're not hated.
I don't think that's popularity. I think we can agree to disagree on the definition. The thing, though, is we don't know how many students there actually are at Hogwarts.
No.
So in order to have popularity, you have to inherently have
a crowd.
Yeah. And we don't know if that exists. So we know that the houses act en masse to dislike Harry at certain points, particularly the 4th book. But the story isn't interested in whether or not Harry is popular. And I don't think Harry interacts enough with other people to be popular.
Also, I think that he frankly wouldn't give a damn.
Also, Hermione is famously not well liked for how she behaves. And Hermione hangs out with Harry and Ron. And after they become friends, Hermione never stops being friends with Harry and Ron. And Ron, I can see as being, unfortunately for him, because I think this is what he's afraid of, being known as like the least interesting Weasley. So I think we can establish they're well known. I don't know if they're popular.
We can agree on that, yes.
Yep. So the next section here brings up a question that Harry has that we also have. Harry was wondering what a wizard did once he finished school.
Yeah, because as far as we know, there is no wizard university anywhere. No. That means that all the staff in Hogwarts has just 7 years of magical education.
Yep. So you can work for the Ministry of Magic. You can own a shop or a bar. You can be in Romania studying dragons, and you can work for Gringotts the bank.
You can also be a healer because St. Mungo's has training programs. So apparently they also have a co-op program for the 7th year Hogwarts students to try and get into the craft of being a healer.
If I remember from the 5th book, you can also be a curse breaker.
Isn't that what Bill is?
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't know. Is he?
Bill is a curse breaker
Okay, yeah.
for Gringotts.
I saw something.
Apparently, this is how a British bank is getting their funds by robbing the tombs in Egypt.
So he's in Africa, but yeah, we know it becomes Egypt.
Yes.
And I do wonder
They're
because
doing
it
what
is
British people do.
it's a European bank working in Africa, and you have that moment where you're like, "Hey guys, are you doing some neo-colonialism?"
Yes, they are, because Bill is breaking the curses in the tombs to get hands on the valuables. So I guess some of them are going to go to the British Museum.
We also have some knowledge that Gringotts has been broken into. Gasp.
Gasp.
It's too late for the sound effects,
I
and
know.
yeah, I can see your eyes going there. It must have been a powerful dark wizard, and everyone thinks you know who's behind it. But the interesting thing is that nothing was taken from the vault.
Which is very confusing.
It is also interesting that Dumbledore is staying one step ahead and taking the rock, the stone, and moving it out of Gringotts a month before. We don't know the exact timeline of when.
It was just a very convenient coincidence that the Hagrid took Harry to Diagon Alley on that same day when Quirrell was there.
Now, have we established with canon facts that Voldemort was not on Quirrell's head by that point?
Yes, because
Okay,
he
yeah.
touched Harry.
Yeah, we've talked about this.
Well, that sounded weird. He shook hands with Harry.
Yeah, he, a grown man, just touched a little boy. So then Ron changes the subject and asks, who's Harry's Quidditch team? This is our second mention of Quidditch.
Yeah, and Harry's, I don't know any.
Oh, that's the other thing you can be in the Wizarding world, a professional Quidditch player.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Oh, you can also be a journalist for the Daily Prophet, the only newspaper, or the Quibbler, the unpaid work you get.
yeah, because I think Quibbler is like self-publishing. Just like it's like a zine.
Yeah. And then Ron is explaining the 4 balls and the positions of the 7 players, which is interesting because later in the book, Harry will have to have it all re-described to him and us, which isn't great writing, but I appreciate that J.K. Rowling explained the rules of Quidditch when she didn't do it here. I think this is her gardening in one book. And the problem with that is the wonderful thing about writing a book and building what you've written on earlier in the book is you can just go back and change what happened earlier in the book.
Yeah.
Like you garden when you've written something and the book's been published and you can't go back and change it.
And that's convenient.
Yeah. So then we have Draco come in, and his first thing is whether or not Harry is actually Harry Potter. We meet Crabbe and Goyle, who are known by their last names. The only other person I can think about who's like known by their last name who's like a youth is Victor Crumb, and that's because he's a professional Quidditch player.
He's famous.
Yeah. But Crabbe and Goyle are just Crabbe and Goyle. They have first names. We're going to learn them eventually, but not now.
Yeah.
Yeah. We get the Malfoy-Weasley rivalry already. And we get another really sweet moment where Draco offers Harry help, quote unquote, by identifying who's pureblood and who's not. And Harry immediately goes, no, I'm not going to accept your help with that.
Yeah, I think I can tell who the wrong sort are for myself. Thanks. Mic drop. But also everything that Draco says in this particular section, I'm just like, oh my God, shut your bitch ass up.
I mean, he's 11. He's just parenting what his parents say. That's the thing. We talked about this last episode, but I don't hold him account to what he says here. I hold him account to the fact that he's still doing it when he's 15 or 16 years old.
Fair.
Yep. We also have the first of a very famous word, Potter.
Potter?
It's interesting. So I'm listening to the audio version, the new full cast versions, and the actor who does Draco Malfoy does Potter just as the actor who played Draco Malfoy in the movie did. And the moment I heard it, I'm like, the first of many.
I wonder if Locke Spratt is going to be doing that in the HBO TV show.
I hope so. So there's a line here that I actually really like, even if it is overly written, which is Draco Malfoy didn't go red, but a pink tinge appeared in his pale cheeks.
Yeah, I imagine that is just like go a little bit splotchy.
Yeah, I think that conveys the message where he's not fully embarrassed per se, but he's a little bit embarrassed. And it implies like how much composure means to this character.
And I also really like that Harry's able and really wants to stand up for that and reject the implied authority and power here for the sake of just, what's right.
Yeah. And so you maybe remember earlier where I said Harry and Ron have the same will fight a doomed battle just because it's the right thing to do.
Yep.
And they do that here because
So there's like 2 vs 3.
After Draco insults the Weasleys and Hagrid, both Ron and Harry stood up and they go, say that again. And Draco goes like, oh, you're going to fight us? And Harry's like, yeah, we are, noting in his mind that Crabbe and Goyle are a lot bigger than him and Ron. And I think that that's a really, that shows a very important part of both their character,
I do really like Malfoy's outfit in the Minalima version. It's very distinctly wizard. It's not Hogwarts school uniform, but it's very distinctly wizarding attire.
So then the Crabbe and Goyle and Draco try to get some of the sweets, and the rat bites Goyle's knuckle.
Go Peter.
Go Peter. And then we have the interaction we talked about where Hermione comes in because she hasn't been able to find anyone to talk to. That's our interpretation, not text, and goes him to hurry up. We're almost at the school and you're gonna be in trouble. So
I can't believe that Scabbers just fell asleep.
Yeah.
Back asleep right away after being basically banged into the window.
Yeah. I think it is something. So this goes back to the doll. Sorry, I have to say this correctly. Roald doll-esque thing where what is the rat's characteristic? He sleeps through everything.
Yep. It's just,
Comedically, he sleeps through everything. Yeah. So Harry and Ron get dressed and they go out to get out on the platform. And we see a familiar face. It's Hagrid, and he has a big lamp. And he goes, first years come over here. All right there, Harry. He cares.
Yeah, he checks in on him. And Harry doesn't go, hey, you forgot to tell me how to get to the platform 9 3/4, dude.
So then we we turn a corner, turn a bend, and we see...
And we have a scenic experience.
The narrow path opens suddenly onto the edge of a great black lake. Perched atop a high mountain on the other side, its windows sparkling in the starry sky, was a vast castle with many turrets and towers. And that's Hogwarts, baby.
Ain't it beautiful? I wrote in here on the little note, all that just for this experience, just all the effort with the boats and separating the first years and just, and only first years get this experience of arriving to Hogwarts in a boat, just to have that view, that scenic view of the whole castle from the water. That's amazing.
I think it's also so that they come in and immediately get sorted because they don't have anywhere to sit if they come at the same time as everybody else.
Logistics.
Yes. I think that they've looked at a logistical problem and said, how can we make the solution something that our students will enjoy?
Elegant solution. Love that.
And then no more to forward to a boat. And Harry and Ron get into their boat and they're followed by Neville and Hermione, two people who haven't made friends.
Yeah. And there is a discussion on the one and only Reddit that they should have been a group of 4 friends, but it was just too troublesome to write all 4 of them into the books. So Neville got excluded.
I think that Neville was guarded as well because he becomes someone who could have had Harry's life. Yep. And it becomes a really, I don't think nice, like it was nice to the characters, but as a work of writing, it becomes a really interesting contrast to show that Neville has actually the problem that Harry worried he'd have, that he wasn't good at magic. Now, that's somewhat because he has a wand that doesn't work, but he's relentlessly bullied by Professor Snape to a point where
Snape becomes his worst fear for a while.
The argument that, so people get really upset in the very last bit, the 17 years later, that Harry named his son after Snape. And I feel pretty meh about what Harry chooses to name his kids, but I won't deny that Snape was brave, but Snape could also be really cruel. And I think that the 17 years later chapter is something that you appreciate more when you are also an adult, because you're not naming your son after Snape because he was a good person all around. You're naming him because he did something very brave and helped save Harry's life and died for Harry. And that's not nothing. And a lot of the discussion of this is like, well, how could Harry name, his son after Snape? Snape was a bully. And like, yeah, Snape was a bully, but people are complicated. Personally, I would not name a kid after Severus Snape, but Harry, I think, feels differently. I think his lack of parental figures also relates to this. Like, he doesn't have people for most of his life who would do this. The only person he had was Sirius, who was murdered.
And his name was included into the name of his first son. Also, you know who he could have named one of his children after?
Who?
Hagrid.
Yeah, I understand why he didn't. Hagrid's not a name that I would give to a kid.
No, like Ruby.
Rubius. Yeah, Rubes, that would be good. Mm-hmm.
Even for a girl, Ruby.
Yeah. Okay, yeah. So Harry made his choices. Both Dumbledore and Severus had a type of bravery that involved making very difficult choices and not always making the right difficult choice.
And I would add that making those choices for other people as well.
Yeah, but someone has to make that choice, and they did it. And that's a sort of thing that you respect as an adult. You don't necessarily respect as a kid. And also there's other things that are equally respectable to an adult, like kindness from Rubius Hagrid, like loyalty from Sirius Black, and achievement like Neville Longbottom did. Like, he really grew into himself. But anyway, I digress, because what I wanted to talk about is Neville is shown as someone who could have had Harry's life and was very similar to Harry. Both of his parents were destroyed essentially by Voldemort. He was bullied as a youth by his own grandmother. He had a difficult time at school. Harry had a difficult time at school. The difference is that Neville is nervous. Harry hides his insecurity. You can see it plainly on Neville. And people aren't kind to Neville in the same way they aren't kind to Hermione. It's really well done later in the books, because you then look back at this and you see how, though Harry has had a lot of hard knocks, he had advantages that other people didn't have.
Or wouldn't have.
Yeah. I thought that was interesting. I like that Hagrid gets to use magic here. He just goes forward and the boats go forward.
But I think that it's just the boats that are magical.
Perhaps.
Well, I love that we find Trevor, finally. And I would love to think that Trevor just traveled all the way on his own.
That's sweet. Maybe Neville does have a friend. But I do agree that Neville could have been written in as like the fourth friend. But I think Neville and Luna in particular, are characters who are emerged later to show outsider status in a way where they're not treated in the same way Harry is treated, where he is revered as much as he is hated. And these people are just kind of like, ooh, gross, loony Lovegood and Neville Longbottom.
Regarding that 4 people group, people heavily talk, and I agree, about how the Golden Trio is supposed to be a mirror of the Marauders, and how the characters supposed to mirror the characters. So apparently, so obviously Harry's James, and then Ron is Sirius, and then we have Peter, who apparently was supposed to be Neville. That would make sense. But the modern generation is supposed to represent like all the best features of them without the flaws. So Harry is like brave and noble without being cocky and arrogant. Hermione is smart without being so putting herself down this much. And Ron is a knowledgeable pureblood without being sometimes a total asshole.
A bully, let's be honest.
A bully. And
because Ron can be a total asshole, but he's not a bully.
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
And Neville was supposed to be this kind of a little bit of a third wheel in this.
The fourth wheel.
The fourth wheel on the tricycle.
Yeah,
the fourth wheel on the tricycle, without being a treacherous son of a bitch.
Makes sense.
And in that instance, then Luna Lovegood was supposed to mirror Snape as being this outcast type of person without letting it define her.
It kind of works, but it kind of doesn't. So Peter Pettigrew, it's noted that James and Sirius like keeping him around because they like being admired. And we see that in the flashback where when James is playing with the snitch, what's Peter doing? He's gasping like, oh my God, James, you're so cool.
Oh my God.
Yeah. And yes, pretty gay. And Neville is never shown to be like that. And I think there's the argument that, like, so if I was giving this position, this theory, the benefit of the doubt, I would say that what J.K. Rowling was doing was showing how people treating you or how your character, you can take a similar situation and have different outcomes.
Yep.
And I don't think that that works because I don't think she was thinking about that when she created the characters of Harry, Ron, Hermione, and...
No, I don't think so. Like,
and
not,
then she
at
was
least not in the beginning.
So the main story is about Harry, Ron, and Hermione. Neville is there, and he grows into a more important character, and we see personal growth in him, but he's not an important character, I would say, until the 5th book, maybe the 4th.
Peter was never important.
We don't know a lot about him, about the life in Hogwarts. We just know the things that have been mentioned. And, like, I know people like to write fan fiction about this era. I've never read any. I don't understand, and I'm not ready to accept fanon when doing our analysis. Yeah. So I think if it was intentional, it would fit better. Because, like, Luna is an outcast like Snape is an outcast, but Snape's actually not an outcast if you think about it. He immediately finds new Death Eater friends.
Well, that's him letting being an outcast make him bitter and search for other outlets.
Is it? We don't know if he had any other. We know he was friends with Lily. We don't know if he ever had any other friends. And then we know he was hanging out with Death Eaters. We don't know if he ever had any other friends. And we also don't know a lot about Luna in her life before what she's introduced in the 5th book. We just know she's called Loony Lovegood and not treated very nicely. But that doesn't mean she didn't have a friend at some point. So I would accept, like, it feels like it could fit if we knew more details. But given that we don't actually know a lot about Peter Pettigrew, we don't know a whole bunch about how Snape grew up. And we know a lot about how Neville, Hermione, Ron, Harry, and to a lesser extent, Luna grew up.
Well, I think this is what makes all the difference.
That's, in my mind, why it doesn't really work. If there was more information, I could say, yeah, there's some bearing on this. If it happened, I don't know if it was intentional.
Do you think this is kind of a nature versus nurture discussion?
So that's what the theory is trying to show.
Yeah.
But then if that was the case, it just doesn't make sense that Neville isn't included in the group.
Yes.
Because, like, if they want to do the comparison, Neville should be in the group. The idea that him not being in the group is some statement on how being treated differently or being a different character, you become someone good versus bad, I think is intentional and not done retroactively. So if it's there, it's because, like, readers and people can find things in media that the author didn't intend but is there.
Yeah.
That's the thing. So it
could very well be there.
It could very well
just
be.
not intentionally put in there.
And I myself don't see it. Maybe it's there. So they get to the outside of the castle, a huge oak door. Okay, this is something that I actually want to go into because I understand it's not important for the book. I understand that people in the modern day don't like lengthy descriptions of how you get somewhere. But so they go into a little harbor, like a kind of underground harbor, and then they clambered up a passageway in the rock after Hagrid's lamp, coming out at last to a smooth, damp grass in the shadow of the castle. Is there an underground harbor in Hogwarts that you can access? It implies that it is. I think so, yeah. It's just like a one-off line to describe, like, walking in the dark, a bunch of 11-year-olds in a stone passage, probably up a bunch of stairs. And I just remember, so I used to walk, like, when I was at summer camp, you would walk from the bonfire back to your cabin and the fire had gone out and it was so dark. And even on a flat area that was like a path and pretty safe, we were holding on to each other to not trip over roots.
Well, here they have Hagrid to follow. Just follow the light.
I know, but the light's hard to see all far back. This would actually, if we knew how many first years there was, this would make more sense. Because we know there's Harry, Ron, Hermione, Neville, Draco, Crabbe, Goyle, Dean, and Seamus, Lavender, Parvati's twin, Padma. And there's other Slytherins. Pansy's probably in there.
Millicent.
Zachariah Smith is in Hufflepuff.
Blaza Binney.
Blaze Zabini. So there has to be at least 20.
So the general consensus is that it's kind of like it's supposed to be almost equal between the houses. So we get around like 50.
Of course, the presumption there is that the Sorting Hat is saying, well, it has like a quota.
Yeah.
It's meeting the quota.
Yeah.
It's like, I need 10 Hufflepuffs. So even though this one's more of a Ravenclaw, I'm going to throw him into Hufflepuff, which doesn't feel like what the Sorting Hat would do, but then you'd probably have some uneven years.
So, and also there is an implication of this particular group of first years and maybe the previous and following several ones being the result of the opposite of the baby boom.
We're not having kids because of the war.
Yes.
Yeah. So the chapter ends with a great line. Hagrid raised a gigantic fist and knocked 3 times on the castle door. Exactly. So that was the chapter. I thought it was good. It was another like journey chapter. So there was in the shack when Hagrid goes, "You're a wizard, Harry." That's like a content plot chapter. And then Diagon Alley in this chapter were more like journey chapters that happen to also do some world building and plant some seeds for the later mystery.
And here in this chapter, we get just a lot of exposition, a whole bunch.
And introduction of characters. That's another thing. Yeah. So they're not necessarily plot chapters, but I think that they do serve a good purpose. I think they're generally well done. I enjoyed them a lot as a kid. I enjoyed them again as an adult. Yeah, no, a good time. And
they are very enjoyable because of all the things you get introduced to. The wizarding means of travel, they're also different. And there's a toad. And
there's also seems to be no enforcement in Hogwarts if you bring a pet that's not on the list.
Right.
Yeah.
So who are the rules for?
This is also something, I think it's intentional that Hagrid in the last chapter goes like, toads are so out of fashion, I wouldn't give you one. And then what does Neville have?
A toad named Trevor.
Yeah.
Which is also a very out of fashion name, I would argue.
Yeah. So it is, I mean, maybe it wasn't in 1997, but yeah. Was this when this was written?
Oh,
it was published in 97. I know she was writing it for a few different years, though. And also in the UK, so somewhere different. So who do we have left to meet who's important for this book? Dumbledore and McGonagall, I would say.
Dumbledore, who we have a look at him. Mm-hmm. And we have a few Easter eggs planted there.
Yeah.
And then we get all the relevant professors in the next chapter.
Well, I mean, relevant in the terms that they teach the class, but the only one who's really relevant plot-wise is Snape and Quirrell. I include McGonagall because she is the one to discipline them.
Yep.
So she does have an effect on the plot because she also gets Harry into Quidditch and things like that.
She's a plot device.
So there's only 3, I would say, who's left that are important to the overall plot of the book, the overall story of the book. I like Professor Sprout because her name is Professor Sprout. I can't tell you anything about her. The only thing I remember about Professor Flitwick is that after Harry summoned his broom for the first challenge in the 4th book, Professor Flitwick lets them not do anything in class so he can just talk to Harry about that.
That was really funny.
Yeah, Professor Binns is boring and a ghost.
But he still gives them a very important piece of information in the 2nd book.
Yeah, but that's...
Which is, in the film, is delivered by McGonagall.
Mm-hmm. Trying to think of who were the other professors. We don't do
There's
strong...
Trelawney.
But the 3rd book.
3rd book.
So who's in this book? Who's another important professor?
No.
I don't think there is any. If they're named, I can't remember them. Yeah. So we're going to see soon all of our main important characters. And I want to give J.K. Rowling some credit for just economy of prose because we are 84 pages in and we're already at the wizarding school. That's good.
Yep.
She has established everything about Harry's life. She's put in a lot of...
If you think about it, this is not a very thick book.
No, it's only... So we have a couple different copies, but the one I have in my hand right now is 203 pages long.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. So it's not... They're not long. Especially a lot of fantasy books are thick.
Oh, yeah, they are.
So I think it's very much... For a kid's book, though, it's long. So credit to her for how she wrote it, because I remember I did not care any amount how long it was. I was just like, I gotta read this.
Yep.
Okay, well, we'll see you all next week, our dear listeners.
This was Nicola.
And Senya.
Bye.
On Two Girls, One Plot.
Bye-bye.